Ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished guests, professors and doctors, students, undergraduate students, graduate students, everybody else, it's great to have you back. I hope you've enjoyed the lunch break, and I hope you feel energized after some Polish dumplings. I hope you appreciate them. Most of you know them because most of you are Polish. Nic nie smakuje tak dobrze jak pierogi, but when it comes to dumplings internationally, they actually should be very well known for people from abroad. We hope they are. Anyway, there's a music band called the Dumplings, so if you're interested in this vision of the culinary arts, but also music arts, then you can try it. Thank you very much for being with us. This is the second part of our conference. This is the final conference again. The Polish-Norwegian research program has been up and running for the last years, and we're happy to tell you about some of the projects. By the way, please don't forget that there are those posters and that there's this exhibition part where you can actually see the different projects and the various projects that have been so successful. Today we'll just show you some of them, and there are the categories that we have used. Actually, they're all behind your back. So there's climate change, there's environment, there's gender, social sciences, and health. We will start with climate change. You might have seen during the previous presentations that this part is actually the one with the biggest number of projects, so that it makes sense that we will actually show two of them. When it comes to the rest of the categories, we will just present one of the projects in each of the categories. But when it comes to climate change, we will have two. This project has been in life or working for the last 44 months, and it's worth almost €1 million. This is a collaboration between our two countries, and it also is a continuation of what was going on beforehand. Because Awake was the initial project, and then Awake 2 is the continuation of that project. The name of the project is Arctic Climate System Study of Ocean, Sea Ice and Glaciers Interactions in Svalbard area. And to present this important project, we've invited the Associate Professor Mr. Waldemar Walczkowski from the Institute of Oceanology of the Polish Academy of Sciences, as well as Professor Stein Sandven, Nansen Environmental and Remote Sensing Center. Gentlemen, it would be great to have you here on the stage, so please join me. And please welcome them. So this is your time, dear guests. Oh, so one of you will present the whole idea. Well, just in case, you can always also take a seat in here, and there's microphones as well. So best of luck.
First of all, I would thank you for inviting us to present this project. It will be done jointly by myself and my colleague. My name is Stein Sandven from the Nansen Center in Norway, and my colleague Waldek Walczkowski from Institute of Oceanology, Polish Academy of Sciences in Sopot. So we have been working together on Awake and Awake 2 for more than 6 years. Not only that, we have been working for some years before that also on Arctic research. I will talk a little bit generally about the importance of polar and Arctic research. It is an area where we see a lot of very big interest. It's a big changes going on in the Arctic. We have seen that the atmosphere is warming, the ocean is also warming. We have seen changes in especially the sea ice reduction is well documented. We have seen melting, and we are seeing that glaciers and ice sheets are melting. We have permafrost melting. The changes in the ecosystem are also observed. So we have a lot of significant changes that requires that we should know what is going on, and we should know how we should act. And as scientists, we can do a lot to build up better knowledge and better, let's say, we need to know how the climate system, our ecosystem, how it is functioning. And only if we can have joint research, not only between Norway and Poland, but the general international research in the polar region is very important. It's also important for human activities, for our economies. We have seen that new areas in the Arctic has opened up because the sea ice have been reduced. So it's possible to sail with ships to areas where you couldn't do that before. And that means that new areas of resources can be available. And especially we have the oil and gas resources is one of them, perhaps the one which is quite controversial because of the climate issue. But also fisheries and other industries can benefit from these changes in the Arctic. Arctic tourism is growing quite dramatically, I would say, because now we start to see big tourist ships, cruise liners sailing up to the Arctic, bringing a lot of tourists, bringing people who don't necessarily have much knowledge about the Arctic, and which easily can, make mistakes. They can do things that put them into jeopardies. So we have this increased risks for accidents just because people start to go to Arctic without having really knowledge about how the conditions are. Also, we have pressure on the environment, which is things we have to consider seriously because human beings have impact on the environment in the Arctic, in particular because this environment is quite fragile and vulnerable. And also we have to make sure that we are not making negative impact on local populations and indigenous people because they are living there and they don't want to be disturbed by a lot of tourists, for example. So we need more knowledge, and we need it because sustainable development, this popular word, is very important in the Arctic. So all the countries who are interested in the Arctic have stated very clearly that they need to support sustainable development and everything that follows with that. So planning and decision making requires that we have good scientific knowledge. We have a number of stakeholders who need to then participate in our research, such as the local communities, shipping industry, oil and gas industry, tourism, and also fishing. So to do that, we need to build up observing and monitoring system which can support the climate research and also other research disciplines. So therefore, we have these research projects where Awake and Awake 2 are one of many, but we would like to present Awake today because this has been joint Norwegian-Polish project now for more than 6 years. So then I will give the floor to my colleague, Waldek, who will speak specifically about Awake project.
Yes. Thank you very much. Now, after this introduction, I will say a few words about our common project, Awake 2. History of our project. We both, Stein and me, we are oceanographers. And we believe that ocean is one of the very important and in some regions the most important climate factor shaping climate. Especially Arctic. European Arctic is over the influence of the ocean because there are two very big currents or current system which transport warm water from the south to the north, and we since years observed very high correlation between, for example, temperature of the Arctic Svalbard, ice situation north of Svalbard, and temperature of Atlantic water. And we decided together investigate, but investigate not only water as oceanographers, but water, ocean, atmosphere, and ice. And it was Awake 1 and now Awake 2 project. We wanted to see how Atlantic water, warm Atlantic water, changes of this water influences glaciers in fjords. Here you see two branches of Atlantic water flowing along the Svalbard shelf. At the left side you see also cold current flowing along the western Svalbard. It is a very complicated situation. At the right side you see these interactions between ocean, atmosphere and glaciers, inflow of the warm water over the shelf, inflow to the fjords, this cold current along the western coast, and glaciers, and of course interaction of ocean with atmosphere. It is very important. Heat fluxes from ocean to the atmosphere in this region, especially in winter, are really high and may shape climate in this region. As you see, it is not only oceanographic project, and due to this we had 8 partners. It was glaciologists, meteorologists, climatologists, and of course oceanographers, 4 partners from Norway, 4 partners from Poland. Motivation of our research, why we wanted to do in fjords. Usually we made earlier observation and our science at deep ocean. Now we decided to move into the fjords, especially into the Horsund and Kongsfjorden, because these fjords are this region which are under influence of the ice, of the ocean, and of course atmospheric forcing. Especially Arctic fjords are important because observing, we with our vessel Oceania, we are every year in Svalbard, and we observe how from year to year these glaciers are smaller and smaller, and this retreat of glaciers is faster and faster. And of course, this meltwater from the glaciers is very important for oceanic circulation, not only, also for sea level rise and for other processes. And of course, fjords are very important for life habitats. And it was in our institute, we had 6 Polish-Norwegian projects investigating all these processes. In case of our awake, we investigated mostly only physical processes. And aim of our project was to understand the interaction between these main components of the climate system in the Svalbard. It means ocean, atmosphere, and ice. As I thought, we made our investigation only in small region, but in my opinion, and not only in mine, it is a very good laboratory, because the same processes are in other regions of the world, in Greenland mostly, but not only in Antarctic and other glaciers of the world. Measurements. It was really multidisciplinary project. From high-scale deep ocean measurements from the northern Norway to the Fram Strait. Every year with our vessel, you see this sailing vessel. Maybe you don't believe, but it is really good research vessel, our Oceania. And we every year made this survey and investigate changes of Atlantic water pattern. It was this background to our investigation in fjords. You see also a small boat. Using these boats, we worked very close to the glacier faces and investigated these processes in situ. Glaciologists working at the glaciers, they have very long time series from Horsund. It is the best observed glacier in the world, and we connected our data, our oceanographic data, with this glaciologist data, meteorologists, of course, satellite images, and even we worked at the ice. The last picture shows oceanographic measurements from the ice. A few words about results. It's not time here to talk about all, but we really observe very high influence of the ocean into the glaciers, into the glacier recession, and correlation between inflow of warm Atlantic water into the fjords and calving of the glacier and melting of the glaciers. I believe that we made first ever done measurements of the mixing of the water, turbulence very close to the glacier, and all these processes which are important for calving and melting. It is only part of publications. We have much more. I will need not read about all these titles. I wanted to show only this one. Maybe it is unbelievable, but even in 21st century, it is possible geographical discovery. We made really big geographical discovery. We discovered island, and it is not small island. It is really a big island. Not yet. It will be island. Because Horsund is fjord. But this fjord is closed by, in the eastern side, you may see it at the right-hand side picture, in the eastern side, this fjord is closed by the glacier. And measurements done in our Awake 2 project shows that bottom of the glacier is deeper than the ocean level. And after melting this glacier, Horsund will be not fjord, but it will be Sund, as name, Horsund. And it will be fast, because this glacier melts really fast. Our approximation, it will be 2055, 2065. I think it will be faster, and it will be beautiful catastrophe. We would like to see it, and we are going to measure it, and we are going to investigate it. And collaboration, I think it is this added value of our works, it is collaboration. It was various fields of collaboration, joint measurements, logistic support, meetings, very nice and interesting and successful. Even we had our session together with other Polish-Norwegian project, PAVE. We have our session in the EGU conference. But I think the most important is that we work together, we want to work together, still we are the friends, and we even started work together in new projects. I hope Stein will talk a few words about this new project we started together. Please.
Yeah, I mentioned that this collaboration in polar research has been going on for more than just the Wake. We have been working on a number of European projects, I would say, in the last 10 years or so with Polish colleagues, but also many other colleagues in Europe. Now, I would like to show this one slide about a new EU project called Intaros. It's about developing observing systems in the Arctic. Here we are working, in Norway, we are 7 partners, and Poland have 3 partners in the project, but we are a total of 49 partners from 20 countries. So this is really a global project which is going to run for 5 years now. And we know that this project is going to increase collaboration not only between the 2 countries, but between all the polar countries that are interested to work in the Arctic. So I would just like to mention this project now, and this slide shows that we have been doing field work in this project now this year in all these 8 places that we see on the map. And this will go on now for the next, I would say, 3-4 years, and project will hopefully generate much more collaboration between many more people who work with the polar issues. So that's the last slide, I think. Thank you.
I wanted to thank you that you that you visited us, and I should say that Stein is the coordinator of this big European project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your work and your engagement in the whole process. As you can see, they actually meet a lot, and they discuss all that's happening there way north at our globe, on our big continent. So that is surely interesting, and that surely is important. We've talked about Norway and the glaciers and how they change and what it may look like in 2015, or actually should I say 2055 and 2060. This seems distant, yet it is the time frame that we should consider. When speaking of Poland, there actually are also some issues about the future that we still find unknown. We have pretty much not so much clue about the future of our climate here in the country. But there are people, also thanks to this program, to this research program, who actually make sure to know what Poland is going to be like in the next 10 or 20 or even more years. And those people are representing the project called Chase PL, and their professor, Zbigniew Kundzewicz, so he will speak for them. He represents the Institute for Agriculture and Forest Environment of the Polish Academy of Sciences. So welcome, Mr. Professor. A big round of applause. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. My name stays here because I'm a coordinator of this project, but it's a collective effort of 3 institutions. My institution is called the Institute for Agriculture and Forest Environment, Polish Academy of Sciences in Poznań, Poland. Then comes Norwegian Meteorological Institute, or MET Norway, from Oslo, and Warsaw University of Life Sciences, Polish abbreviation, well known SGGW, SGGW. The leaders of partner institutions are Professor Øystein Hoff from MET Norway and Professor Tomasz Okruszko from Warsaw University of Life Sciences. We have 4 representatives of this project in this room. I'd like to greet warmly Abdelkader Mezgrani, coming all the way up from Oslo. Actually, Abdelkader played a very important role in this project because the Norwegian leader, Øystein, became executive secretary of the Norwegian Academy of Sciences during the project, so he was only involved in 20% well, he stayed one day at MET, and then Abdelkader took his role. Many thanks for that. And I also marked one name with a red color, Mikołaj Piniewski. He was not the leader of a group, but he has contributed so much to the project that I'd like to distinguish his name in this way. So he worked towards a multiple win to produce a lot of papers, good papers in good journals, for his habilitation, but also for the benefit of the project. Thank you, Mikołaj. Now come as a list of highlights. Sorry, it is a little bit wordy. This is the only slide that is so wordy, but I think they are important things. So the ChasePL project carried out within 40 months, 2014-2017, contributed in a considerable way to an increase of understanding of climate change impacts in selected sectors. What are these sectors? Water resources, natural hazards, with floods and droughts in particular, environment, agriculture, and health. It extended the state-of-the-art of detection of change, projection of climate change and its impacts, and interpretation of uncertainty. The project improved general awareness. Project's objectives that were planned in the first place have been fully achieved. Probably if I say fully achieved, it's too little, because we promised just a few papers, and we achieved 31. 31 papers in peer-reviewed journals. A book in Polish and in English, scientific data, and climate change geoportal. The project linked strengths of both nations. Norway is very strong in climate sciences, and Poland is quite expert in climate impact sciences. So it's I think, a very fortunate marriage of two competences. We believe that the project contributed to reduction of information gap on climate change impacts among the policy makers, stakeholders, and the broad Polish society. The project can be regarded as a substitute for non-existing climate services. Having said that, I would like to mention that I gave a copy of this book to Mayor of Wrocław, Mr. Rafał Dudkiewicz, who applied for his town to compete for the title of a Green Capital of Europe. Last year, Green Capital of Europe was given to Oslo. And I'm very proud that in a final application, there are pieces from this book. So it went to high places, to public administration. The project consisted of 7 work packages implemented jointly by partners. So the first 2 work packages are about climate, change detection in observation data, and projections into the future. Then work packages 3 and 4 are about the impacts. Climate change impacts in the Vistula and Odra basins, and then impacts on ecosystems and agriculture. And work package 5 was about uncertainty. Next, 6 and 7 come promotion, dissemination of results, and project management. The structure is like that. So 2 work packages on climate, 2 work packages on impact, 1 on uncertainty, 1 on dissemination, and 1 on management. The most important arrows linking these boxes are shown on this slide. Just a few figures. We have produced hundreds of figures, but what I'd like to show you is just a short sample. The temperature has grown. We know that. But perhaps it is quite surprising that even if we average for the whole country, there are still very strong year-to-year variability of an annual mean temperature. So the temperature is growing, no question about that. Yet natural variability is quite strong. We also looked into heat waves that are coming more and more frequent now and last longer. It's a real problem because in some heat waves there are about more than 1,000 additional deaths in Poland. Deaths associated with a heat wave. To the right, the map shows you the temporal changes in the number of days with snow cover in winter. So the number of days with snow cover has been decreasing, and often it is statistically significant decrease. These 2 figures were based on observations. However, projections tell you about a continuation of the same story, which means it's going to be warmer. No question about that. Warmer at any time horizon that we can think of in the 21st century. And also the snow is going to be more problematic, which is important for much of Poland. It's an important skiing industry. So alpine skiing in the south and cross-country skiing in many places. And our national prides, the champions in both female cross-country skiing and male jumping. So actually, just last weekend, we had the first competition in ski jumping in Poland, and the Norwegian team won. Poland came second. But it may be the other way around next time. Mean annual precipitation projections. It's a large number of maps, mostly showing you a blue color. Blue color means weather. This is quite clear. And every quadrant of a plate shows you the situation for particular emission scenarios, greenhouse gas emission scenarios, and particular time horizon. So the left column shows you RCP 4.5, which means a strong climate mitigation in order to achieve such a benign scenario. And right column, it's 8.5, which means business as usual, more or less. Upper row refers to a near future, 2040, 2024, 2050, and lower row refers to remote future, far future, 2074, 2100. So indeed, if you consider a scenario RCP 8.5 and remote future, is going to be wetter on average. But this statement, on average, is very important. When it comes to extremes, to river flow extremes, low flow indicator is likely to be improved on average, but blue color here in changes in a high flow indicator, it doesn't make us happy because likely high flow in rivers will increase, which means potential increase of flood risk. There were two huge floods in Poland, 1997 and 2010, plus many cases of urban flooding. The last one probably was in Elbląg in September this year. So there are many urban floods and some gigantic river floods. Unfortunately, the news for the future is not very good. Flood hazard is likely to increase. And this is a dominating message from this part of a study. I mentioned a book which is available in two linguistic versions, Polish and English. A book consists of 5 parts. We start from setting the stage with 3 chapters, then observations of a climate change, another 3 chapters, projections, 2 chapters, impact on sectors in Poland, and finally uncertainty and projection, uncertainty and perception. The Polish book is available for free on the net. You can download it if you wish. A very strong Norwegian entry was in a part 3, projected climate change in Poland. Norwegian colleagues are very strong in downscaling, empirical statistical downscaling, and this was used to generate projections of a future climate for Poland. It is quite important that we produced open access data sets for researchers. This is really important in Poland, where people are data hungry, I would say, because the policy of our Hydromet service differed very much from the policy of Norwegian Hydrological Service and Meteorological Institute. In Poland, data were not available for free. The situation has slightly changed, so now the data are possible to get, but it's still not as good situation as in our partner country. We are proud that some of our products were accepted and published in data journals. Data journal called ESSD, Earth System Science Data, is really very important. Impact factor around 8. And this is number 3 in a domain of, number 3 title in the domain of geosciences, just after nature, geoscience, and nature, climate change. So I'm really grateful that Abdelkader Mezgani, who is present with us, took the lead and prepared a paper that was just accepted, and it is very likely to be published still this year, in the remaining part of the year, on a JSPL climate projections data set. We hope that these papers will generate many citations, because these data are needed, and people can get this data for free thanks to our products. One of the results of the project was a geoportal developed at the Warsaw University of Life Sciences. Spatial interactive visualization of observed and projected climate change and its impacts. This geoportal received a second prize in the Internet Map of the Year contest 2016-2017, organized by the Society of Polish Cartographers. Piniewski et al., a very important paper on the hydrological modeling of the Vistula and the Oder river basins. It is for the first time in our country that such a huge scale was assumed. So, as most of the audience knows, the Vistula and the Odra cover by far most of the country, except for some small coastal river catchments. More than that, these catchments cover also parts of our neighbor countries, Belarus, Ukraine, Slovakia, Czech Republic, and Germany. So this paper presents results of modeling of the entire Vistula and Odra basins. The tools are available, and I'm pretty sure that our colleagues will use these tools many times in the future. Climate change impacts on water resources and crops. There are just a few papers listed here, but there are more now in the pipeline. Some are accepted, some are submitted to very demanding journals like Agriculture and Forest Meteorology, and well, we'll see. Fingers crossed. The final technical work package on uncertainty also generated important papers. There is one paper published in 2018. We are still not in 2018, but I consider this fact to be a very good news, because if an editor wants a paper in a January issue, it means that she or he trusts in a capacity of this paper to attract many citations, because there is a long lifetime of a paper before the impact factors start being counted. So indeed, we hope that this paper, co-authored by members of all 3 consortia partners, will catch many citations. And finally, a paper published in Climate Services, Challenges for Developing National Climate Services, Poland and Norway. Norway has a very strong and well-developed climate service. There is a National Center for Climate Services. In Poland, such a center doesn't exist. If somebody wants to translate the very term climate services, it's a problem, because we do not have a term in the Polish language. So there is a lot that needs to be done. But our paper was accepted in the journal Climate Services, even if climate services do not exist in Poland. Yet, what we produced, what we tried to demonstrate, that our our project is a kind of a substitute for climate services, national climate services. My last slide with an illustration of the Varta River and multiple thanks. First, my personal thanks to my colleagues who collaborated with me in this project. Next, thanks to the funders for making this project possible. It was a great adventure and a great opportunity to grow. Then, to decision makers who decided to put our project on a short list of projects presented here. And finally, to you all for attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now there's going to be more projects, but in another category. So we are done with the category of climate change. Now switching to environment, which is also a very important factor to consider, or topic to really spend time dwelling on. This is the offer for the next 20 or 25 minutes, because we're about to hear from a city in the southern Poland, which is Częstochowa, and the university which is located in there. This will be about innovation in the recycling technologies of sewage, sludge, and other bio-wastes, energy and matter recovery. You're going to hear from Professor Małgorzata Kacprzak, but there is also Dr. Anna Grobelak involved in the whole process. They will be represented by Professor Małgorzata Kacprzak. Please welcome her cordially.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for invitation me and for the possibility to present our project. I have to say that I'm the another Małgorzata present today, and I think that is maybe not most popular female name in Poland, but maybe, and I hope so, but that is a very popular name in scientific community. So all Małgorzata is the maybe not the best, but maybe. Our project, the subject, the innovation in recycling technologies of sewage, sludge, and other bio-waste, energy and matter recovery, the acronym BIO10MARE. The project, which is maybe a little bit different that these which were present before, because it's concerned on the idea for including the waste such as sewage, sludge, for the very big idea of the circular economy, which is very, very important idea of the whole European Commission and generally whole Europe. Why sewage, sludge? When I think that the water is the most important for the whole world. So if we treated water, if we treated wastewater, we obtain waste, it means sewage, sludge. And of course, in theory, if we calculate that one person could generate, its average, 10 to 50 kilograms dry matter of sewage, sludge, hence we about 8 billion people who lived on the world could generate even 110 billion kilograms dry matter per year. This is a huge volume, this is huge mass, which must be managed, which must be treated, which must be utilized. So That's why this is a very important environmental problem. And I have to say that when I was, the last year, I was at Svalbard in beautiful city Longyearbyen, very difficult names. However, I was very surprised because on the whole Svalbard, only one place, this is Polish Arctic Station, has a wastewater treatment plant. On the whole Svalbard, wastewater are pumped directly to the fjord, to the sea. It's a little bit strange, however. And so, what the different countries do with the sewage sludge? It is possible a very different way of the management. And here is the very fresh data from the Eurostat, and you can see that some of the countries, such Netherlands or Switzerland, incinerate whole mass of the produced sewage sludge. However, in the case of the other countries, such Ireland, Spain, Denmark, Portugal, sewage sludge is utilized on the soil, is used as the fertilizer. So we have very different possibilities what we can do with the sewage sludge. However, is not the problem what we can do. However, the problem is what it is inside sewage sludge. It is waste or it is a substrate for the next products. In Poland, about 15, maybe almost 20% is used in agriculture, and about 10% is composted, very little is landfilled, and about 10% is incinerated, and unfortunately almost 50% is managed, utilized, what we don't know how. We have no data about it. In Norway, the sewage sludge is used mainly like fertilizers in agriculture. So this is a little bit different. And we have several European regulations concerned on the sewage sludge management. And one is the Council directive. Is a very, very old directive from 86, and on the protection of the environment, particularly the soil, when the sewage sludge is used in agriculture. So, as I said, very old directive. Unfortunately, we have not possibility for new directive because it's not possible to prepare new solutions. As I said, the problem is what sewage sludge is. Is a substrate or source of pollutants or source of for the nutrients. We know that it is a very good source of the nutrients because of the nitrogen, because of the phosphorus. We have now several technologies which propose the phosphorus recovery from the sewage sludge. But of course, we all the time we know that is the problem with the pollutants. And historically, the pollutants which were observed, noted in the sewage sludge were heavy metals. But now we know that we have several other maybe more dangerous problems. It means, for example, of course, organic contaminations, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, for example, different surfactants, different polycyclic masks, pesticides, of course, phenols, but I think that the most problem which we are with the sewage sludge is the personal care products, because it's the relatively new compounds. The pharmaceuticals, also a very, very big problem. And from the heavy metals, we have very specific metals. This means nanoparticles, which are also very often in sewage sludge, very popular. Here, I would like to show you the screening. This is the data from the European Commission. They wanted to check if very popular pharmaceuticals are possible to find in the sewage sludge. And of course, everybody uses pharmaceuticals. So we can find in the sewage sludge. It is very popular because in almost 100% of the samples is acetylsalicylic acid, very popular. Is that the diclofenac, ibuprofen. So this is very, very popular pharmaceuticals, but during the wastewater treatment, after treatment, they are in the sewage sludge. And also antibiotics is also the problem with this. But of course, the next problem is the biological safety. So here is a lot of the different species of the different genera of microbes. It's fungi, bacteria, viruses, protozoa, helminths. I think that about 500 different species is possible that it can be occur in the sewage sludge, but during the directive, during the law, we only we must to isolate only few. It is Salmonella, Escherichia coli, and the helminths is Toxocara and Trichuris trichura. So it's only, however, it's a lot of the different species which occurs in the sewage sludge. However, when we when we combine plus and minus of sewage sludge, generally we know that it's very good substrate for the different possible products. So historically, many countries like Norway recognized that sludge and sludge components may be recycled in a so-called productification strategy. This is the strategy which is based on the used sludge as a product, as a substrate on the marketplace. And what we can, for what we can use sewage sludge. This is, of course, the production of the specific products like heat, like electricity, which is made from the biogas, of course, like the production of the different biocompounds, not used directly on soil like the fertilizer, but first we can prepare, we can mix with the different chemical compounds and then used as the biocompounds. And Now we know that also European Commission and, for example, International Water Association show that it is possible to use sewage sludge in the circular economy. So it is possible to use sewage sludge not as a waste and incinerate this, but use as a substrate for the energy and matter production. So we have two different pathways, the energy pathway and the materials pathway. And this is one of the most possible pathway. It is published in 2011 article. It is the Professor Spinoza. It is a world-recognized expert in the sewage sludge management, sewage sludge treatment and utilization. And he and his colleagues proposed pathway for the sewage sludge utilization and management for the maximizing matter recovery and energy recovery. But in this case, we still have byproducts. We still have byproducts, and we know what we should do with these byproducts. And of course, also, as I said, it is a lot of the technologies which is proposed, where are proposed recovery, different substrates from the sewage sludge. The most popular is the phosphorus recovery from sewage sludge. As I said, a lot of the technologies, a lot of the proposition. It is possible to recovery also the metals, for example, gold is also the possible. And it is also a possible recovery of the humic acids and some enzymes. So sewage sludge is possible that it is a very good source for the recovery of different compounds. So we proposed in our project the idea including of the sewage sludge in the circular economy, and the promoter of the project was Częstochowa University of Technology, Institute of Environmental Engineering, and Częstochowa, Poland. We have two partners, Norwegian University of Science and Technology, NTNU, Trondheim, and Norwegian University of Life Science and MBU in near Oslo. And this is the main idea of our project. So we complete different technologies, several technologies, to obtain energy recovery. And next, after anaerobic digestions, when we produce biogas, these bioproducts, which is the byproducts of the anaerobic digestion, was used for the compost, and next for the prepare of the fertilizers, and next for the breeding of for the cultivation of the plant, but not it were very specific plants, because it was the plants for energy. It was energy crops, so it was the plant which it is possible to use for the energy production. And next, this plant biomass, partially, it was possible to use this plant biomass for the compost processes. So as you see, this is completely closed technologies. Yes, this is the several technologies, but it's completely closed. We have, we hope that this idea, circular economy, it is completed in this proposition. And we have the 5 work packages. The first, co-digestion of sewage sludge with the organic fraction of the municipal solid waste and rich fat material. And this is the work package which was realized in Częstochowa, and the Professor Ewa Neczaj was leader of this. And co-composting of sewage sludge with the organic fraction of municipal solid waste and plant, also realized mainly in Częstochowa, and Professor January Bień was a leader. And the next, the land spreading, so the use of the sewage sludge for the fertilizer production and for the plant cultivation, and also we checked of soil carbon sequestration of possible to decrease of the CO2 production. And it was done mainly in NMBU, this is the old name, mainly in Oz, but in cooperation with Częstochowa University. And next, all data we sent to the Trondheim, to the NTNU, and Professor Helge Brattebo from NTNU checked and used life cycle assessment methodology for evaluation and comparison of sewage sludge treatment options. And work package 5, it was management. So a little bit about work package 1. It is the substrate which we used, the sewage sludge, grease trap sludge, organic fraction of municipal solid wastes, and we checked how much energy we can obtain if we mixed in different proportion during this process. Work package 2. This is our experiment in special composters, and also different mixtures of different substrates, sewage sludge from meat industry, bulking agent, organic fraction of municipal solid waste, grass, and we try to produce compost of very high quality. And the next, after that, we had the compost, we had also the fertilizers with the use from example different also chemical compounds, and we used this compost, these fertilizers for the production, for the plant cultivation, but in very specific place, because we chose the degraded terrains. It were terrains, 2 terrains. The one is Arianar, the zinc and the lead smelter, so the soil very high, with very high pollution, mainly of heavy metals, a very low pH, very low, below 4, so very acidic soil, very difficult to plant cultivation, and with the large amounts of heavy metals such cadmium or zinc or lead in the bioavailable form. And the second terrain, this is terrains after lignite mine dump, so maybe not so polluted, but the problem is that is alkaline pH, no level of humus, and a large amount of ferrum, the compounds of ferrums. And there we cultivated energy crops. This was miscanthus and pine. After that, I said we used the LCA for the evaluate of the environmental profile of solution for wastewater and sewage sludge treatment and to identify improvement alternatives. And of course, we obtained a lot of the results. I have to say that one of the young doctors, Anna Grosser, spent you can see almost 900 days when she every day prepared the mixtures for the sewage sludge anaerobic treatment. So every day she spent, also in Saturday, also during the Sunday, during the holiday. She really, it was great work, and she spent a lot of the time in the laboratory. However, we obtained fantastic results from this work package concerning on the possibility to obtain biogas of very high quality. That means a very high level of methane, and so it means that we obtain biogas of very high volume of energy. And here some also some results from this work package. However, maybe I only say conclusions. That is possible to carry out the co-digestion process at shorted hydraulic retention times with good results. It also were checked different technological values, different technological factors. So we obtained very good results about this. Gas production rate as well as biogas production at the shortest hydraulic retention time were approximately 46 higher in comparison to results obtained at the longest hydraulic retention time. So 20 days it was this retention time. So we really obtained very good results. And when we composted, also it was possible to obtain compost of very good quality for the use in the agriculture. This compost meets requirements for fertilizers. This is, okay, sorry. But I would like to say a little bit about vermicomposting, because this is very, maybe it is not popular. It's not popular, however, we can use vermicompost, so we can use the different composting, for example, Eisenia andrei, this is the species which is used for the vermicomposting, and also we can obtain the compost of high quality. Also, we got a lot of the very good results from the land spreading of this composting, of this compost or of these fertilizers, and also we noted that it is possible to use and to cultivate energy crops on the degraded terrains. It is very difficult to obtain results like this. And this is the results from the life cycle assessment, and this is for evaluation comparison of sewage sludge treatment options. And the conclusion only because I have to say that the life cycle assessment for me is really very, very difficult. Professor Helge Brattebo tried to explain this from the 5 years, and we still have a problem with this. So this is really very, very difficult methodology. But we are very happy that we have such expert like the Professor Helge Brattebo from NTNU. And the conclusion is that the current trend of biogas productions from the mixed stocks of organic wastes and upgrading of biogas for use as fuel in transport as today often seen in Norwegians' new cases seems to be the #1 ranked technology priority. So even in Norway, the production of biogas from waste is one of the main technology for the sewage sludge treatment. Some selected papers, we have really very good selected papers, as you see, with very high impact factor value. Mainly the authors were from the Częstochowa, but also from the Norway. We had also 2 patent applications. We hope that we obtained the patent. These were the patent with the application with our colleagues from the OS. So we hope so that we will be successful of this. And 4 PhD theses, 3 of them are completed. And in the end, we spent a lot of the time in the different places in Norway and in the Poland. So we visited a lot and we spent a very long time, not only for work. So thank you, thank you very much.
Professor Kacprzak, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your presentation, and this is also a moment to tell you that we have covered the 2nd out of the 5 categories, which is environment, and there will be some other projects which represent next categories. The next one is gender, and there is this comparison which makes a lot of sense between Poland and Norway. If we look at the societies in Norway and in Poland, you might see that in Norway there might be more equality when it comes to job opportunities for women. So they might have the same number of opportunities that men would have, or at least this would be the perfect situation. Would it also be possible in Poland? That is the question to ask. And what would be the measures to actually achieve this total equality, which is something that all nations would like to eventually achieve. This is one of the topics of this presentation, which is socio-cultural and psychological predictors of work-life balance and gender equality. So not only are we going to hear about gender equality, but also about work-life balance, which is a very important topic nowadays when we tend to spend much of our lives at work. Would you then maybe also still have some time for relax? And that is the question that our next guests will also ask, or they would ask in their research. They are Dr. Natasza Kosakowska-Berezecka and Dr. Gan Wedoy. So please welcome them. All right. So we have microphones for you, ladies. Yes, I hope that they work. Would you like another microphone, or would you rather stay there? Okay. May I just ask if I just told the right thing? Did I say the right names, or did I maybe mistake something?
You said it perfectly, although I think, yeah.
Okay.
I think you're doing fine here.
Okay,
really.
Thank you very much. So best of luck to you, and once again, a big round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. We are very happy to be here. It's a privilege to be the part of the group that's presented here, but also looking at the posters at the back. I think it's a great sense of community that we are actually such a big group of people who did wonderful projects. So congratulations to you all. Our project is focused on gender equality, and work-life balance, and my name is Natasza Kosakowska-Berezecka. I represent University of Gdańsk, Poland, and there is with me Gun Wadoy from International Research Institute of Stavanger, and together we'll take this challenge and try to present this 3-year project in 20 minutes. One of the reasons we thought that it should be innovative approach is that's a very important topic, and we thought of innovative of disseminating it. So here you have one of the ways we chosen. We were working with our Polish cartoonist Magda Danaj, and she read our results and she put them into the cartoonist way to, you know, to reach a wider audience. Here we have an example. What do men profit from gender equality? And our focus in one of the work packages was on men, actually. When you think about making a bigger picture, we thought that numbers are a good idea. So just to give you a glimpse, an overlook of what we did. So we were working around 1,000 days, 2 countries, but not only, because some of our data were collected in India and in Canada to see what's there in terms of household duties and parenting in other countries. There were over 40 researchers, so if all of us were standing here, we would occupy this whole stage, so imagine the power in this group. There were 5 institutions, apart of the ones already presented. We had Polish Academy of Sciences Institute of Psychology. Actually, our first meeting was in this big culture of palace and science. So this is where the project started with our colleagues. There is Center for Intercultural Communication Stavanger and University of Stavanger. So we had 5 work packages, over 3,000, 6,000 study participants, 29 publications, some of them are still in the process of publishing, and 68 presentations, not only at national and international scientific conferences, but also practitioners were our targets, and you will soon know why. What is very important is that we need you to know that we were working on 2 research questions. Number 1, what facilitates and hinders the shift towards improved work-life balance and gender equality? And number 2, what happens when people migrate from, well, less gender egalitarian, obviously Poland, to more gender egalitarian Norway. And actually not only because we wanted to see what should be done in order to make even non-gender egalitarian country more egalitarian within the households as such. This is our one of our group meetings. We had numerous of them, and just so that you know it, they didn't only lead us to very prestigious publications, but also to Kumla and to Ylvis Brothers. Those of you who don't know Ylvis as of yet and what does the fox say, you should Google it. It's a really wonderful product of Norway, I would say. And you know what I mean. I mean, this part of the group, at least you know what Ylvis Brothers is. And we're very thankful for Ylvis Brothers and their publications as well. What we did.
This is a presentation of all our data, and as you see, it's quite extensive. We have over 300 in-depth interviews with couples in Poland and in Norway, migrant couples, civil servants in the education and health and care sectors, and with employers. We have a quantitative study, including over 3,000 participants. That is with online questionnaires. The participants are Poles in Poland, Poles in Norway, and Norwegians in Norway, and mixed Polish-Norwegian couples in Norway and Poland, primarily from Pomerania and the county of Rogaland in Norway. The Facebook site address is there if anybody is interested.
And this is what happens when you get a group of interdisciplinary researchers, so cross-cultural psychologists, social psychologists, sociologists, anthropologists, educational specialists. And we were operating at 5 main levels. So when you look at gender equality and work-life balance, we wanted to look at the cultural level, so broader society impact here, public sector and organization, family, couple, and let's say the deepest one, I would say, in terms of closest to us, so individual and psychological factors influencing this. When you talk about gender equality and work-life balance, and I think you said it nicely at the beginning of our presentation, that it's about how to make your work foster your family life and how to make your family life foster your work life. And here there's a problem, and I think we can call it an imbalance, because when you look at certain data, and I think European countries, this is like a top everywhere it's like this, I mean in Europe, that there is an interesting correlation. So it goes like this: the more children women have, the less visible they are in the labor market and the less they earn. And the more children men have, the more visible they are in the labor market and more they earn, which is quite leading to a great imbalance, because it means that there are not enough women in the labor market and there are not enough men in the domestic life, right? So the focus here, if you want to bring work-life balance to couples, you need to bring more women to the labor market and more men to the domestic world of household duties and childcare. So when you think about this like this, you need to know that negotiations concerning household and family are an important issue, because if we observe gender egalitarian approach to household duties, division and childcare, there are those positive consequences for both women and men in the family, but also for children. So probably you, and this is also reflected in our data, that basically when there is a gender equal division, men and women, wives and husbands are happier, they have higher marital satisfaction, children score higher at schools, they have a lower risk of depression, they are healthier mentally and physically, but also, I like to say when we have different examination activities, also it relates nicely. So the more households are divided equally, the better also sexual life is of a couple. It's a very important result, I think. I should mention it on the side. But there is this issue of actually tempting men to be more involved in domestic life, because it's not a problem to tempt women to be in the labor market, because it's a high prestigious thing, but it's not that common for the men to be as involved as women are. Not even Norway reaches the equality here in that regard. But there is this important element of gender equal welfare regulations that actually influence men's involvement in household duties and childcare. And there is this question that probably you know the answer to, as we are all here. Which countries breed more gender egalitarian male partners? And probably it won't be a surprise if I show this picture here. So here's Erna Solberg actually promoting that there is a gender equality in Norway, and they have reached it in 2014. But also gender equality brings great results in terms of economy, but also happiness. You know that Norway is one of the first countries to be very satisfied with their life. So in the World Happiness Report, indicated that. So the question is, so is it only possible in Norway to have gender egalitarian men? Can we do it somehow in Poland? And what are the factors bringing men to be more involved, and the couples as well, to be more involved in household duties and parenting? And this is a summary of really numerous experimental studies we did, and quantitative and qualitative approach. So just me quickly run you through it. I'm not sure if it's going to work. Do you see it? Not that well. Can I move? Am I still visible when I'm moving like this? Okay. So if you could look at this graph for a second, and let's not look yet at the green light, but this one. So here you say men and women are allowed to be involved in similar roles. So when you look at Norway, this is the case. So when you go into the playground, there are more men than there are in Poland. So in a way, you see men and women in similar roles. As a result, what happens, and you go along this arrow here, we have less gender associations. So we don't associate that much men with career and women with family as we do in when men and women are not allowed to be in similar roles. As a result, we say that household activities are degendered. And this is very important, because when we did research, actually cleaning is seen as less feminine in Norway than it is in Poland. So actually, there's a process of degendering of household duties. As a result, men, they are not threatened by the fact that they do clean the floor or they do change nappies, just to give you an example. And this is a very important phenomenon, because when you think about men, you think about agency, macho, right, in a way. This is a traditional approach. And usually a man is somebody who is not a female, right? So they avoid feminine tasks and features. So what happens that if they do it, if they do something like this, so they try to be involved, they can approach something which is called backlash effect in psychology of gender. So they get punished for non-traditional gender behavior, which is the case of Poland, for example. But if men and women are more often observed in those roles, these backlash effects are less visible, our research shows, which is very important because men are not threatened to be involved in the domestic life. As a result, they don't fear backlash, and they can be more involved in household tasks and parenting. And as a result, we have something which is visible both among couples in Norway and migrant couples in Poland. They have more cooperative approach to gender equality. They share duties, they are more willing to do so, and they negotiate those tasks. Let's see how it looks on the family level then.
Okay, so what happens with families and what have we learned about the families in this project? I will now give you some glimpses from our findings. First, from within the family and how spouses share tasks in the family after migration. Then I will present findings on how employers facilitate for work-life balance and the importance of spouse support. And I will show findings from encounters between Polish migrants and municipal public services in Norway. So, in the PAR project, one of the objectives was to provide insights into family life of couples who migrate from a perceived less gender egalitarian country, that is Poland, to Norway. That is considered to be the model country with regard to gender equality. Do migration change the way couples work together in the family, and if yes, how? Amongst the findings are that household and childcare arrangements are more gender egalitarian among Polish couples in Norway than Polish couples in Poland. That is, they enjoy parental leave more and leave to care for sick children. That is, the men. In contrast to egalitarian Norwegians, Poles exhibit visible support for traditional gender roles, which might threaten understanding of gender egalitarian attitudes. Men's ideological support for gender egalitarianism explains their increased willingness to share household duties and parental roles. So we find no such relation to women. It might be claimed that the changes in the families are mainly a result of men changing practices and possibly attitudes. The degenderization of practices is present in Polish migrant stories about their new life in Norway. The longer they stay in Norway, the more they become accustomed to cultural cues, promoting gender equality and degendered social roles. So, do Polish work migrants change behavior? We answer partly yes, but not necessarily as a gender equality project, but to make use of welfare rights. We can say that the welfare state helps shape practice. When it comes to work-life balance, family and work are two important areas of adult life. However, these two domains are not always compatible, and the degree to which these roles are at conflict influences numerous spheres of individuals' and couples' lives. We know that work-life conflict is especially evident among migrants as where did I do that? I lost my manuscript. That's stupid, isn't it? We know that this. we know that for Polish migrants in Norway. We did a comparison between Poles in Poland, Norwegians in Norway, and Poles working in Norway. And what we found was that for Poles and couples in their home country, that is Poles in Poland and Norwegians in Norway, they explained that employers support work-life balance of couples So they experience support from their employer. What we also find, but only for Poles working in Norway and Polish couples in Norway, is that migrant couples tackle more or less their work-life conflict on their own, because they say that the organizational support does not effectively minimize the work-life conflict of migrant couples. And the most important support they get when it comes to balancing work-life with family is actually their spouse. So in that case, the spouse is the most important factor. So let's see if I've managed to have my notes for the next one. Does integration policy change what is important when it comes to municipal public services? We find that there actually aren't differences between municipalities, and we can't find much differences between sectors as well, because it's all very blurred and all very undeliberate, maybe, how it's arranged. And we find that that might be understood as a dual problem. Because what we find is that Polish families in Norway, they don't take collective initiatives towards public services. They meet public services one by their own, and they don't organize. So most migrants stick to private level needs and solutions, and their contacts with the services are thus largely limited to individual needs. And on the other hand, we find that the public services, there are lack of overall policies and arenas of efforts. So you have people that are very much engaged in creating good meetings with Polish migrants, or you can find indifference. That varies very much all along when it comes to public services. So you can say that everything is left to specific sectoral policies and local and awful individual efforts.
In a way, staying for a while on the policy ground and integration policy ground, just to give you one information, the nickname for our project is PAR Migration Navigator, and PAR in Norwegian and Polish, it means couple, right? And PAR also in Norwegian is equality, right? So in a way, it all, in terms of Polish couples, in a way it boils down to what spouses do together. Do they share the gender equality and work-life balance or not? So both are very important. But not only. In terms of integrating to the Norwegian values of gender equality, we did one last experimental research that's now hopefully going to be published, and I want to finish it with this one, because one of the indicators of Poles integration, we would say, is how much they advocate other migrants to be, you know, behave according to gender equality values and rights. So one of such indicators could be the question, how much are you willing to encourage other migrants to be more involved in households and parenting, right? It was about men. And we asked our participants, Polish migrants, to read 3 texts. And this is important because one of them, it was an extract from a newspaper stating that Norwegians are very open to Polish culture, and they consider their values very enriching Norwegian culture, right? So we call it inclusive for Polish migrants condition. The next one read a text, well, the next group read a text about how much Norwegian culture is open to migrants as such. So all migrants who are in Norway are enriching our society. That was read in the text. The third one was something different, because here the participants read how much Norwegian culture expects Poles to be adjusting to the gender equality, not mentioning anything about appreciation of the Polish values. So basically our results show, and this is a very specific graph. So it basically shows that when participants, so Polish migrants, were informed about being included in the society, that their values are appreciated, were actually more willing to advocate towards other migrants to be involved in gender equality practices, right? So to adapt to the gender values. So in a way, it wasn't the case of the exclusive extract. So when they read, well, assimilate guys, then the result was they were not so willing to advocate for gender equality rights that are in Norway. So in a way, that's a message for integration policies, and it's a common result for different acculturation studies. If the migrants feel welcome, they're more willing to integrate and adapt to the values existing in a given culture. So I think this is important take-home message. So this is us, Gun and myself, but there are more of us, and more of us have produced different publications. There are just a couple of examples of the papers we've published. More of them are, of course, in reality, but one of them I want you to be particularly familiar with. This is a manual for couples and for trainers who work with couples. We put our research into the user-friendly language, using also cartoons, and it's a manual for couples how to negotiate your household duties and parental roles in order to be more gender equal. And this is open source material. Everybody can download it right now. It's easiest to get it on our Facebook profile. It's also in English. So those of you who prefer English versions are also translated into English. So it's for couples and for trainers, for institutions who work with gender equality, couples, work-life balance, and practitioners who work with migrants. And this is our group. So which I'm very thankful to be the part of. It was a wonderful adventure to work with such an amazing group of people. As I said before, we're from different branches of work-life balance and gender equality. So there's an amazing story, and I'm very thankful to the founders to have this adventure together. Formed 4 years ago already, right? Because we prepared an application together. And the cooperation is continued. We are still working together. We are not only colleagues, but friends. So thank you so much for having us here. And also a great thank to the assistant from NCBR, because if it wasn't for you and your help in different stages, it would be really harder to coordinate this project. So thank you very much, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. May I just ask you, how fast do you think that change can be? I guess the same changes would happen in Norway back in the day.
We're not taking a bit. We're just speculating here.
I know. Mm-hmm. So this is off the record.
Well, the thing is that in a way it has to be supported by the policy. So like in Norway, the case was for the welfare policy regulations. So if it's one of them, it's okay. But we need many policies that would actually enhance gender equality. And one of them will be father quota, for example. So the case of Norway also shows that the father quota was implemented. More fathers took parental leave as a result, right? And this is what we need. We need more men on parental leave. And actually, by the way, one comment from our project, we had 9 children being born during the duration of the project, and 2 of them belonged to men, and they took a parental leave. So we are happy about it.
That's a great example.
2 Polish colleagues of ours.
That's something to emphasize. Thank you so very much. We have heard from Dr. Natasza Kostakowska-Berezecka and Dr. Gun Wedoy. Thank you so very much. And now this topic will also have to do with Poles migrating, because there's around 2 million Polish people not living in Poland. And then there are issues that happen along the way. There is a big group of them that lives in Norway, and we have the question of their adaptation and how it works out for them in there. And this is when we're entering our next category of projects, which is social sciences. We're going to hear from the Jagiellonian University of Kraków and from the Center for National Relations with Professor Krystyna Slany and Dr. Justyna Strusik, Dr. Katarzyna Gmaj. Hello, great to have you. This is going to be about doing family in a transnational context. So, best of luck. Thank you for being with us.
Deo, I would like to thank you for invitation, us for presenting our project. So, together with me, the presenters are Dr. Justyna Struzik and Dr. Katarzyna Gmal. Very briefly about our project. Please, next slide. The project had been led by the Institute of Sociology, Jagiellonian University. The research consortium comprising the partners from Adgerforskning Kristiansand, represented by Eugen Guribay and Randy Wardal, Center for International Relations from Warsaw, represented by Professor Krystyna Iglicka and Dr. Katarzyna Gmaj, and NOVA, Norwegian Social Research, Oslo and Akershus University College of Applied Sciences, represented by Lihong Huang. Now, very briefly, I would like to present our project objectives and our work packages. So, the main objective was to investigate the processes of doing family in the context of migration and reintegration, both in the receiving society, Norway, and the country of origin, Poland. So the detailed aims of our project were the following: outlining the socio-demographic characteristic of migrant and immigrant wave, analyzing family practices, reproductive behaviors, gender roles, and new patterns of mothering and fathering, family activities, and relations to school and social community. We also investigated work-life balance. Further, providing very important information about Polish children in families, in public institutions, and in social environment. We investigated also the sense of belonging and identifications. We examining social capital, network of trusting social relationships, maintaining family kinship ties across borders. A lot of effort was put into preparing the recommendations, organizing workshops for social workers and migrant parents by applying participatory approach. So, now about the methodological approach. We applied numerous information types and sources, as well as multiple analytical and data collection tools. We work in the framework of transnational theories. We use from family studies, sociology of childhood, and we used the theory of social capital. A mixed method study had been used, for example, qualitative, biographic, and semi-structured interviews. So we have over 130 interviews, over 50 with children, and quantitative we conducted survey online, covering 648 people. The novelty of our project was that we invited the children and their parents to our project. So, child-centered approach we try to use. I would like to say about our outputs. I am very proud of the publications. For example, we have written 2 books and 2 research reports, 7 working papers, 32 articles in international and national journals and books. We prepared 2 special issues in Central and Eastern European Migration Review, and Migration Studies. We have one completed doctoral dissertation. Several significant activities is worth to mention. Workshop for social workers, both in Poland and Norway. A program of workshop concerning intercultural education. A workshop for teachers and parents in Norway at the Polish Saturday School. 4 project workshops, 2 academic conferences, and very famous Traveling Time for Europe. It was international conference. We were also in media, Polish and in Norway. Very briefly about long-term outcomes. It includes, for example, strengthened visibility of Polish-Norway family migration flow, the subject successively put on the map of academic and policy relevant inquiry, facilitation of diaspora and family policy revisions, and implementation affecting bilateral partnerships. Propositions of family-oriented solutions that are gender-sensitive and, moreover, intersectional, particularly vital in Poland. Inspiration and initiation of broader debates on children in migration, as well as systemic intercultural education in Poland. Now we would like to present some selected findings. Please listen.
Thank you very much. I hope you can see me. This also tells us something about, let's say, gender dimension of space and objects. Seems I'm not very tall. Yes, today I'm going to tell you some selected findings from our study, from the Transform project. And I would like to start with saying that we were looking at different waves of migration through the lens of social capital, because we realized that actually when we think about integration or integrating processes, when it comes to migrant population, social capital is often a key dimension to integrating with the society. We actually distinguish 2 different waves of migration. I mean, the first one is, of course, from the 80s, and was driven by political events in Poland. And the first one, in terms of social capital, was actually characterized by quite high social capital, and people from that wave, like the migrants from the 80s, they speak English, they learn Norwegian, and they are quite well integrated to Norwegian society. The newest wave, the second wave, related to 2004 and new policies regarding the migration related to Polish accession to EU. This wave is actually characterized by, let's say, quite low social and economic capital, and this is like the main challenge for integration. People from the second wave, migrants from the second wave, encounter some problems with language, for example. They speak some English, but not fluently, and they have problems with speaking Norwegian. The second finding that I would like to describe in here is actually about different, let's say, models of families, or let's say gender dynamics of family life. I would say that we are not that optimistic, and our colleagues from the previous presentation, although we can see some very visible shift in terms of gender roles and gender dynamics of the family. We distinguish 3 main models of gender relation within the family. The first one, traditional, the second one, mixed, and the last one, egalitarian. And as you can guess, probably the most common is the mixed one. So we can see some traditional elements, or even we can say patriarchal elements of family relations within everyday life within doing family, but also some new elements, more egalitarian, let's say. And this pro-egalitarian shift is especially visible when it comes to fathers and new fatherhood, let's say, when it comes to fathers who are more and more involved in home responsibilities, home duties, and so on. This is, of course, related to their situation on a labor market and sense of stability, and Katarzyna will tell about that later on a bit. In our project, we will also looking at transnational spaces and how they are created by everyday practices of families, Polish families living in Norway. For example, one of our focus was about care arrangements, let's say transnational care arrangements that take place in this transnational space. So let's say that going beyond national context. For example, we were focusing on this social phenomenon of flying grandmothers, Polish grandmothers flying to Norway for taking care of their grandchildren. And what was one of our very interesting result was about actually role of children playing in like bonding, creating processes. Children were really played actually really important role when it came to reshaping family relationships. So, for example, for them, relations with their grandparents staying in Poland was very crucial. It was very crucial also for their identity, for thinking about themselves in terms of, for example, being Polish. As you can see here, for example, we have this one drawing by one of our participants, because we invited children to draw how they see their life, everyday life, where they locate themselves when they think, whether they locate themselves in Polish space, whether they locate themselves in Norway, or maybe somewhere beyond, in transnational space. And as you can see here in this very first point about national identification, we distinguish four main children's identifications in relation to nationality. The first one was about Polish-Norwegian bivalence, and this was actually the most visible and the most common model. It was about, let's say, mixing or somehow connecting both Polish elements and Norwegian elements in one's identity. The second one was ambivalence. And in that model, let's say that national identity was not shaped yet. So it was like in the making, let's say. The third one was focused on, or let's say, Polish-oriented identity. And the last one, Norwegian univalence, was Norway-oriented identity. The last one was actually not very common. And as I said about this importance of children in bonding and in ties, creating processes, we call this role a transnational intergenerational arc, because children were like crucial actors to maintain and creating roles with their grandparents. So, for example, it was quite often their initiatives to organize or to suggest Christmas in Poland, let's say. Yes. And now, Katarzyna.
I have a pleasure to make last remarks on our project, so I will try to be as brief as possible to give the floor to other team. What was the result, the main result of our study was undermining the early expectations that Polish migration to Norway is a temporary migration. We also confirmed findings from earlier studies that to describe processes of integration and adaptation of Polish migrants in Norway, it is better to analyze them in terms of different migratory process than stages of migratory process than in terms of different types of migrants. Well, what does keep Poles on Scandinavian peninsula? Of course, the response might seem obvious. This is an economic factor that is crucial. But I would like to turn your attention for a moment for development of this issue. What was pointed in our quantitative study, because as you know, as it has been already mentioned, our project has used very diverse methodology, and we used qualitative and quantitative methods. We were analyzing official statistics, but we also have produced our own, our own primary data based on the web survey. So with regards to this economic factor, it mainly refers to the working conditions that are much more convenient in Norway than in Poland. And it is important the sense of predictability that is met by Polish families in Norway. We can sum up that Polish migration to Norway is a welfare migration, but not in terms of seeking the welfare benefits, social benefits, because this was pointed by less than 15% of our respondents, and we hardly found it in in-depth interviews. But this is a welfare that stems from keeping working and family balance. It is also about higher living standards, family living standards in Norway. And for each fifth respondent, it was, let's say, generally social and cultural environment in Norway that attracted them to stay longer, maybe for good. Because vast majority of Poles being involved in our survey, in our web survey, they wanted to stay in Norway, or they haven't decided yet. Only 15% was sure that they are going to come back, and this trend is also shown by official statistics that numbers of Poles staying in Norway for longer than 5 years are growing. The proportion of this category of migrants among the total population of Polish migrants in Norway is growing year by year. As far as Polish migration to Norway is concerned, just the summing up conclusion, the two models of migration, temporary, short-term, or even circular migration, and permanent family pattern are existing simultaneously. And both of those models are definitely requiring further research, and both forms of both models from the part of migrants are challenging. Thank you. I just would like once again to thank our partners, Norwegian partners, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today. But we appreciate cooperations with them very much, and we also managed to start relationships that goes beyond the project span. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Slany, Dr. Struzik, and Dr. Gmaj. It was a pleasure to host you. And I'm actually just curious what type of activities beyond the projects that you mean by the cooperation growing so fast and there being some great relationships between Poles and Norwegians. It is interesting, but there are also some other areas to discover. I would like to tell you that we're about to enter our last category, which is health. And this time we will have to talk about, or we will have the opportunity to talk about some issues such as tissues, actually. So tissue engineering of osteochondral implants for joint repair. I hope my English is good enough, but I will be corrected if necessary by Dr. Joanna Idaszek. It's great to have you from the Warsaw University of Technology. Please welcome her with an applause.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to say that I'm here on behalf of Professor Wojciech Świężkowski from Warsaw University of Technology, and also on behalf of Professor Jan Brinkman from Oslo University Hospital. And actually, Professor Świężkowski was really hoping until the very last moment that he could join us here. Unfortunately, he couldn't, so that's why his name is still in the conference program. So I would like to show you today some results which we obtain in our project called New Joint. New Joint meaning tissue engineered osteochondral implant for joint regeneration. So first I would like to introduce you to our motivation. So osteochondral defect is a defect of actually two tissues, cartilage, articular cartilage, and bone. And it starts with the degenerative lesion of cartilage. And if it's not treated properly, then there is also degeneration of the bone. And this causes chronic pain and also physical disability. And actually, it is estimated that this problem or treatment, maybe 15%, approximately 15% of world population requires some sort of joint treatment. So actually, this is a pretty big problem. So here you could see the full thickness defect, but actually the defect starts with degeneration of the cartilage and then the bone. So this is very complex defect and very huge challenge in clinical treatment because cartilage and bone actually are very, very different tissues. So cartilage is basically a hydrogel. It's viscoelastic. And it doesn't have any blood vessels, doesn't have nerves. And on the other hand, bone has many blood vessels, has nerves, has completely different mechanical properties than the cartilage. So how to treat such defects? We proposed our approach is shown on this slide. So we wanted to use 3D additive manufacturing. So this is a process which enables precise deposition of different tissues. And this corresponds to this zonal structure of the defect. So we wanted to use to fabricate the bony part, which is shown on the in the box on the left-hand side, and the cartilage part, which is shown on the right-hand side. So maybe I will first introduce you to this 3D bioplotting. This technology, maybe you heard about 3D printing or additive manufacturing. This is a computer-aided manufacturing, and because it's computer-aided, it enables precise deposition of polymer melt or polymer solution in form of fibers using pressurized syringe. And this deposition occurs in a layer-by-layer manner. And this technology gives very reproducible, porous, three-dimensional scaffolds. It's also important that it enables scale-up of the production. It's also possible to introduce bioactive agents, and this is important for the tissue engineering. And it also enables fabrication even of cell-laden hydrogels. It's so-called bioprinting. So here again is the box with our proposition. And first I will talk about cartilaginous part. And I just want to mention here that I will present our solution in a way how the damage of the joint occurs. So I will start with cartilage and then go through to the bone. So first the cartilage. Here we wanted to do bioprinting. When we think about this from technological point of view, we have to use cell-friendly solutions because it's bioprinting. So the cells are already encapsulated within the solution. And then we have to think about viscosity of the solutions. It's super important that the gelation of the polymer solution is very fast and well controlled. And of course, the cross-linking agents, which cause the gelation, have to be cell-friendly. And then when we think about the application-specific requirements, we have to use materials which enable homogeneous dispersion of the cells, but also materials which will provide cues for the cells. Because actually cells, it maybe sounds a little bit silly, but they are pretty smart. They really can sense their environment and respond to it. So we were thinking about the formulation of the bioinks, meaning polymer solutions used for the bioprinting. And actually we got inspired by the cartilage itself because it's a hydrogel. So there is a lot of collagen type 2 in healthy cartilage. And also there are some other polymers, like for example, hyaluronic acid or chondroitin sulfate. So we proposed different bioink formulations with increasing degree of biomimicry. Instead of type 2 collagen, we simply used gelatin. And this is a system which we proposed for fabrication of the scaffolds, cell-laden scaffolds. It's a coaxial needle system. And you can see on those images that the cells, they are supplied in the inner needle, and they are in a hydrogel. And the cross-linking agent, which is simply calcium chloride, is supplied in the outer needle. And this enables fabrication of really complex shapes. For hydrogels, this is really an achievement to fabricate such shapes with open porosity. And it also ensures high cell viabilities, which is shown on this slide. And here I can say that our solution was really appreciated by the Biofabrication Society, and it was chosen as a highlight 2016. So it was one of the most read papers and most cited papers in 2016. So then we were thinking about engineering of the hyaline cartilage. So we looked on the expression of proteins, which are normally found in the cartilage, and you can see it here on those images. And what is really important in the case of cartilage are some specific proteins, like, for example, type 2 collagen and type 1 collagen. So their ratio tells a lot about quality of the cartilage. And high expression of type 2 collagen is really a good thing to happen. So this ratio is shown, collagen 2, collagen 1 ratio is shown on the chart on the left-hand side. And we can see that the formulation which gave the best ratio was made of gelatin and chondroitin sulfate. And then when we look on the chart on the right-hand side, please notice the pink lines. This is the composition gelatin, chondroitin, and hyaluronic acid. And it gave the almost equal production of type 2 and type 10 collagen. Type 10 collagen is very important. It's not very important to have good cartilage. It's very important when we think about mineralized cartilage. And I will show you this later. So let's say that we had the best, we found the best composition among tested materials, among tested bioinks, but then we wanted to improve further the quality of the cartilage. So we did a co-culture. We used stem cells isolated from bone marrow, and we also used chondrocytes, articular chondrocytes. And then we also tested expression of different proteins, and we also looked quantitatively at some of the chondrogenic markers. So we can see in the darker blue is the co-culture system, and it shows that the quality of the cartilage also increased. In the same time, our Norwegian partners were developing a 3D culture system of chondrocytes without let's say, artificial matrix. So they use chondrocytes to produce their own matrix. And they use this transwell inserts to culture them. You can see them on picture and the scheme of the culture. So on those slides, you can see that the cells, in blue, there are cell nuclei, and they are embedded in a matrix. And they also looked at the expression of different genes. So we can say that they obtained very nice cartilaginous discs. So now back to the complex zonal structure of the osteochondral defect. I would like to present our solution for the formation of mineralized cartilage, which is in between the hyaline cartilage and the bone. You can see it maybe on the slide, on the image on the left-hand side. So here we use the formulation, I mentioned it before, which gave high expression of type 10 collagen. Actually, this is how the bones developed when we are fetus and then during growth. First there is cartilage, then it undergoes calcification, and then we have bone. So that's why we use this, let's say, hypertrophic composition. We also added mineral phase just to mimic the calcified cartilage. We used nanoparticles of tricalcium phosphate, and here we used only stem cells isolated from bone marrow. So again, we can see here that the cells produce their extracellular matrix. And our approach resulted in higher expression of those hypertrophic markers, which you can see on the charts on the bottom of this slide. So then we wanted to combine the two formulations in one bioprinting, so just to avoid problems with joining the two interfaces. And to that end, we designed a special microfluidic chip, which was also connected to this coaxial needle system. And it enabled us to use two different bioinks at the same time. And the flow of or the position of different bioink could be precisely controlled by syringe pump. And actually, this microchip was patented. So here we combined the two formulations we developed, which I already have shown you. And we did the bioprinting. Again, the viability of cells was very high, around 90%. And here I just want to show you that we were really able to control the deposition. So in blue, you can see vitally labeled chondrocytes. And you can see that they are present only in the 2 layers of the deposited fibers. And on the right-hand side, there are no chondrocytes. Moreover, we can see some of the nanoparticles agglomerates on the right-hand side of that construct. So the osteochondral defect, it's cartilage, calcified cartilage, and bone. So now I want to say just a few words, because normally when I talk about this, it's like 1 hour. Here only 2 slides about plotting of the bony part. So because bone is much stronger than the cartilage, here we had to use other solution. We didn't do bioprinting, we didn't use hydrogels, we used thermoplastic polymers. And we use them because they are stronger, stiffer than the hydrogels. When we process thermoplastic polymers, the name suggests that there has to be high temperature involved. So we cannot place the cells inside of the polymer. We have to seed them later on. So yes, moreover, for regeneration of bone tissue, it's very good if the material is bioactive and also if the material undergoes degradation. So just 2 slides. We developed a series of PCL, polycaprolactone-based composite scaffolds. We use PCL because it's, I think, the only polymer which can be really well processed by fused deposition modeling technology. However, it's not perfect, so we modified it in order to accelerate its degradation. So on the left bottom slide, you can see that we managed to develop composites which actually had degradation rates which varied from 4 weeks to over 24 weeks, so half a year. And that on the bottom right-hand side, you can see that the mechanical properties of those composites also underwent changes during the degradation. And because it was bony part, so here we wanted to create bone in vitro using stem cells. So we looked at proliferation of the cells and also their osteogenic differentiation. So actually, we were a little bit surprised because we've noticed that when we use the slow degrading scaffolds, the osteogenic differentiation is better. As you can see it on the bottom images with the very red samples. This is the mineralized matrix, which was stained with alizarin red. So now we have the hyaline cartilage part, we have calcified cartilage, and we have the bony part. So we wanted to prepare this hybrid scaffold for treatment of osteochondral defect. So on this image, you can see the scaffold, actually 2 scaffolds. There is this cartilaginous part, which was glued using tissue glue to this bony part, which is on the bottom of this image. Here are some computed tomography images. So you cannot really see the hydrogel part, only the mineralized part of the hydrogel, because hydrogels are usually radio-opaque, transparent, I'm sorry. And also the hydrogel seems to be a little bit smaller, because in order to perform the micro-CT, the computed tomography measurements, we had to dehydrate the sample. So hydrogel, a lot of water, right? Dehydration, it shrank. And here you see some histological sections of the hydrogels. And the cells, they were growing within the fibers, but also they migrated out on the surface. And this is the histological section of the mineralized cartilage. So actually it looks a little bit different. And we think it's because when we added TCP, the production of the extracellular matrix by cells, it's really increased. So we did the in vivo study. However, I cannot show you any images now. We did the study in rat model, and I cannot show you images right now because it's still being processed. So just to summarize, we developed materials which are suitable for regeneration of an osteochondral defect. And we were able to affect chondrogenic differentiation of the stem cells by varying composition of the bioinks. And the application of coaxial needle system enabled bioprinting of hydrogels with very high resolution, very high shape fidelity, and cell viability. This is very important from the point of view of biofabrication. And we were also able to deposit bioinks, 2 different bioinks and 2 different cell types within one scaffold by using the microfluidic chip. For the bony part, we developed ternary composites with tailored degradation rates, which supported osteogenic differentiation of the stem cells. And all of the materials could be combined in one scaffold with zonal structure, which corresponded to that of the osteochondral defect. And I think this is the biggest achievement. So I would like to thank the group. In the middle of this picture is Professor Święczkowski, who really sincerely apologizes. He couldn't come here. And yes, there is one person who did a lot of work in development of the microfluidic chips, Marco Constantini, who unfortunately is not on that picture. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Great job, and we really appreciate your appearance. If there's something behind the scenes that I can tell you, it's just that you found out yesterday that you were about to perform today. So it was a great performance, and it was a great presentation. And I really appreciate this presentation and all the presentations we've heard, which might just suggest that we have just finished all the topics that were presented today. But something to emphasize is that there were so many more projects going on, and that just some of them, actually 6 of them, were presented in here, but there were just so many more. And we're really proud of all of your hard work, and this is our message to all the hardworking people, the professors, the doctors, the students, PhD students. It was just incredible. And for me personally, it was really impressive and inspiring to hear all these stories. And I'm so happy that the Polish-Norwegian cooperation has been going on so great, and I can just come back to what I've heard at the very beginning from the director, from Mr. Professor, and so Professor Maciej Chorowski just said that he hopes that the final conference is not the final conference. And I just really hope for the same. So I feel like if we finish this meeting with a big round of applause, then it would mean that we would expect more. Thank you very, very much.